The Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has said that a draft agreement for the country's new constitution could be ready in a matter of weeks. He says he's ready for any transitional government in Syria to include both the regime and the opposition. Well, to get a view on it now, I'm joined via Skype from Erbil in northern Iraq by the Middle East specialist Ranj Alaaldin from the London School of Economics. Very good evening to you. Firstly, it sounds very much as if President Assad believes that he still has a major role to play in the future of Syria.
That's right. I think Assad and his regime have capitalized on a number of things in Syria, in the region more generally. That is things like the divisions amongst the Syrian rebel opposition groups, disengagement or lack of action on the part of the West, on the part of Europe, the United States as well. He's been helped, of course, by the influx of Russian security forces, Russian air prowess, the attacks in Brussels, in Paris. These have all provided some kind of momentum for the Assad regime, as part of which he's been able to put himself forward as the so-called partner in the war on terror.
Clearly, the help of the Russians in their military intervention in recent months has boosted Assad's confidence. But up to now, over the last 5 years, he's been seen as more the problem than part of a solution.
That's right. So, of course, it depends who you ask. The whole debate surrounding the Syria conflict over the past 5 years has become a lot more contentious, controversial. But, make no mistake, I don't think people see Assad as the savior of Syria and its people. In many respects, he is the problem. He is not the solution. In many respects, ISIS is a product of the Assad regime and its actions. He's seen as being the problem and not the symptom, or ISIS is seen as being a symptom of the Assad regime's actions. But the more victories he gets under his belt, the more he's able to project that kind of framing of the conflict himself as the savior of Syria and its people, then the more that he will become legitimized, and that is legitimized during negotiations in Geneva and more generally internationally.
I imagine one of the reasons you're on the ground there in Erbil is to take a closer look at how the conflict is panning out in the region, and particularly the role of Islamic State. What do you make of their position at the moment? Because clearly, up to now, they've been a huge obstruction in trying to find a peaceful solution. How are they faring militarily?
That's right. So I've been in Iraqi Kurdistan for the past couple of weeks. I'm going to Baghdad and the rest of Iraq next week as well. And I've been speaking to security intelligence officials here, commanders on the front lines. I've even spoken to ISIS prisoners to try and get an understanding of what ISIS's position is at the moment and where it might end up in the coming period, short-term and long-term. I think at the moment there is much optimism because ISIS, its leadership is being decimated, eliminated. It's lost 40% of its territory in Iraq over the past year, 20% in Syria. It hasn't launched a major offensive, a successful offensive since May last year, I believe. Since the November Paris attacks, it's lost a number of, I think, 7 or 8, 9 towns and cities. So I think there is optimism that ISIS, its network, its infrastructure can be eliminated, can be diminished. But nonetheless, there's still a long way to go because ISIS can still, as we've seen over the past couple of weeks in Europe, it still can cause a problem internationally. It still can re-emerge unless the grievances, the political divide here in the country, in Syria, in Iraq, is remedied.
Ranj Alaaldin from LSE, very good to talk to you, and thanks for bringing us right up to date with the latest intelligence on IS from your eyewitness post there in northern Iraq.